Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a beautiful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your thumbs up. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. Well, the name of this video is Asians and Affirmative Action. And I found this interesting because the Supreme Court ended affirmative action, so-called, a few years ago. And the Asians had brought this suit because they thought that Black people were getting into Ivy League elite colleges, as they're called, ahead of them, and that they had higher test scores because they only want the colleges to be looking at the test scores. And the colleges are saying they take a holistic approach to their students. They don't just want students who perform well academically because they know by now that those students cheat on those tests. Well, a lot of the students are cheating. So the administrators of those colleges know that they can't just depend on test scores. So they look at other things too. But the lawsuit just wanted them to look at test scores. And so with the help of this anti-Black man, Ed Bloom, they didn't rest until they got the Supreme Court to overturn affirmative action, thinking that it was going to hurt Black people and it was going to help the Asians more to get in colleges, because they were saying they didn't get in because some Black person got in. I mean, it could be two Black people at a college, and every Asian that didn't get in school, Harvard or Yale or Columbia, well, a Black person took their slot. So the Supreme Court ended affirmative action, and I'm one of the Black people who was glad when they ended it, because some of those schools had said from the start they were not going to change the method that they were using to admit students because they felt that their measure was fair. So the data is in after affirmative action ended, and here is the short answer. Asian Americans were not helped more by the end of affirmative action. You've probably heard that before. The data shows their enrollment at elite colleges did not meaningfully increase, and in some cases, it declined. Across the Ivy League and other elite schools, the class of 2028 numbers show for the class of 2028 at Harvard, the enrollment is flat. For Yale, their enrollment is down. For Princeton, the enrollment is down. For Dartmouth, the enrollment is down. For Brown, the enrollment is up slightly, and Columbia, the enrollment is up. But they combine Asians plus Pacific Islanders, which inflates the numbers. They did not get a surge, so they went through all that trouble. And many Black people feel like they created discord for no reason because they didn't gain anything in the end. Guess what? White women gained more from affirmative action, and white women gained more by ending affirmative action. So the white women are going to win either way. And the reason that the Asians didn't gain anything was for the reason that people told them from the beginning. The admission system that disadvantages Asians stayed in place. Ending affirmative action did not remove the policies that suppress Asian enrollment, and they are legacy preferences. They didn't do anything about the legacy students. They didn't do anything about the donor class. Some parents are paying big money so their children can get into these schools. They continued recruiting athletes, and many of those athletes are Black. They didn't do away with their personality scoring. They want students to have a certain personality, and the Asians just don't have it. And they didn't stop their holistic review that de-emphasizes test scores. See, the Asians are always counting on test scores, but those schools have said they don't want to accept a student on test scores alone because, as I have said, those administrators know that some of those students cheat on those tests. So even without affirmative action, the structure that caps Asian representation stayed intact. And those systems that I just mentioned overwhelmingly benefits white students. And Asians are not going to affect that no matter how many lawsuits they file. So the biggest beneficiaries of the affirmative action bans were not Asians. White women benefited the most. And that's interesting because white women benefited the most from affirmative action. White women benefited the most from DEI. Now, white women have benefited the most from affirmative action being eliminated. So, like I said, white women gonna win either way. Underrepresented minority women, especially Hispanic women, were harmed the most. Asian Americans saw no consistent gains. Asians were not the group whose outcomes improved. So they ought to have enough of filing lawsuits because that can hurt black people somewhat. But I was surprised that black women weren't even that hurt by the affirmative action elimination or the ban or whatever they were calling it because black women weren't depending on that from the first. Black women don't get their come up from going to Ivy League, those Ivy League universities. Because if you live in Alabama and you go to the University of Alabama or Auburn or any of these HBCUs, it's basically the same. So these Asians operating in New York and California and in these big, what do they call it, sanctuary states and cities, they might benefit from it. But black people don't benefit that much from going to Ivy League schools because we have other outlets and other alternatives to these Ivy League schools. But anyway, I got a kick out of hearing that the Asians went through all that trouble. They found all these lawsuits. They've done all this talking about how well they do on tests. And these schools are saying, we don't care. We are going to look at more than test scores because, like I keep saying, too many of them are cheating on the tests. And those administrators know it and they are not impressed. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about this video and have a good evening.